A tactical knife, a GPS tracker, confidence in every step. You're following a trail, convinced you're in control of the situation. But it's not an animal that emerges from the thicket. It's a walking skull propelled by knots of muscle, a hyaenodon. An ultrasonic repeller has no effect on it. A flare streaking across the sky is ignored. In its eyes there is neither rage nor hunger, only relentless logic. It doesn't think. It doesn't hunt. It's a biomechanical program executing one command: annihilate. In that moment you realize all your intellect is useless. Its jaws were created not for strangulation, but for annihilation. Self-sharpening blades that shear flesh and bone like an industrial guillotine. All your modern knowledge proves useless. But how could it be that our ancestors, tiny, defenseless primates, survived this hell, while the pinnacle of evolution proved such easy prey? Their weakness was their main weapon, and we will return to this paradox in the finale. And why did the Hyaenodon itself, this primitive killer, possess jaws more effective than those of later predators like saber-toothed tigers? This isn't a monster movie. This is a survival simulator. We will reveal the 6 deadly rules of the Paleogene. 6 laws that will prove why, in that world, your intellect was not an advantage, but your main vulnerability. And in just 2 minutes, you will learn the first rule. It concerns the largest creature ever to walk this planet, and you will understand why its colossal size was not the main threat. It's all about a scale your brain refuses to process. You know that the African elephant is the largest land animal today, but in the Paleogene, it would have been merely middle class. At the top of that pyramid stood the Indricotherium, a gigantic hornless rhinoceros, peacefully plucking leaves from treetops. A comprehensible image. But the numbers shatter that illusion. Its weight reached 20 tons, and its height, nearly 5 meters at the shoulder. That's the mass of 4 adult elephants, the height of a 2-story house. An encounter with it doesn't spark fear of being eaten. It sparks an existential dread from the realization of your complete insignificance. You are not prey. You are not a threat. You are dust beneath its feet. This is the first rule: know your place. And the appetite of this living mountain created a threat far more real than its size. How could a herbivore be mortally dangerous without even noticing you? Isotopic analysis of its tooth enamel confirms. It fed on leaves from tree crowns. It would seem your worlds shouldn't intersect. You live below, in the undergrowth. It, above. But to maintain a mass of 20 tons, it consumed hundreds of kilograms of vegetation every day. It didn't just eat. It was a living bulldozer that cleared entire forest areas, breaking trunks to reach food. Its movement worked like the slow current of a river. It had no intention of destroying anything in its path, but it relentlessly changed its course, sweeping everything away. The main danger here is death by indifference. And if herbivores possessed such destructive power, what must the predators have been like? Imagine. You find the perfect hiding spot, dense, impenetrable thicket. Using all your experience, you set up a hidden camp. You feel safe. You've outsmarted this world. But first, it's not a sound that comes. It's a sensation, a low-frequency vibration in your chest that makes your ears pop, as if the ground is rumbling beneath your feet. And then the wall of thicket before you simply vanishes. It's swept away by a herd of Indricotherium heading to a watering hole. They didn't notice you or your hiding spot. They simply walked in a straight line. Your concept of a safe place doesn't work here. Survival isn't about finding shelter, but constant movement. But even these titans weren't kings. The young of giants were hunted by predators with unique tactics. So the world is full of moving mountains. Who dares to challenge them? Logic suggests even larger predators. Such creatures did exist, but they were rare. The most successful and widespread killer was not a giant. It was the Hyaenodon, a bear-sized machine whose effectiveness lay not in mass, but in biomechanical perfection. This brings us to the second rule. Forget everything you know about predators. We move from a world of indifferent power to a world of targeted, tireless cruelty. And the Hyaenodon is the answer to the question from the introduction, why even the famous saber-toothed tiger would seem like a lesser evil to you. How did a predator, possessing neither the size of an Indricotherium nor the speed of a cheetah, manage to dominate the ecosystem? Its secret is a concept that modern predators have almost lost. It looked like a hybrid of a hyena and a wolf, inflated to the size of a grizzly bear, powerful, stocky, built for ambush. But the biomechanics of its skeleton suggest otherwise. The Hyaenodon was not a sprinter. It was a marathoner. Big cats tire in a couple of minutes. It was built for hours-long pursuit at a constant speed until its prey was utterly exhausted. You couldn't outrun it. It simply followed you, hour after hour. Its tactic resembled not a strike, but slow frostbite. It drained the heat of your energy until you froze from fatigue. But the worst awaited at the end. Its jaws were not created to kill. They were created to annihilate. What do its jaws and a pair of tin snips have in common? The bite force of most predators is concentrated in their canines, their task to seize and strangle. With the Hyaenodon, everything was different. Its molars were not crushing molars, but long blades. With each closing of the jaws, they rubbed against each other, working like a self-sharpening guillotine. They didn't tear flesh. They sheared it along with the bones. This mechanism allowed it to crack skulls and crush the largest bones, reaching the bone marrow. It left nothing behind. A perfect machine for killing and complete utilization. Imagine this encounter. What method of escape first comes to your mind? Let's put it to the test. The Hyaenodon has spotted you. It walks unhurriedly towards you. You have a minute. Climb a tall tree or hide in a narrow rock crevice? The tree seems safe. A predator of that size is unlikely to climb. A cave is even better. You can defend a narrow entrance. Both solutions seem reasonable. Now for reality. The structure of some Hyaenodon species' paws indicates they were excellent climbers. But even if not, it won't leave. It will simply sit under the tree and wait. A day. 2. A crevice? It will block the exit and wait until you die of thirst. Your brain offers solutions, but none of them take into account the main factor, its phenomenal endurance. By trying to outsmart it, you are only cornering yourself. But what if the greatest threat in this world is not what sees and pursues you? You found the ideal hiding spot. Predators can't reach you. You're safe. Or are you? Hiding is a basic instinct. Finding a cave, dense thickets, any place to wait out danger seems like the only correct strategy. But in the Paleogene, the planet itself was your main antagonist. Hiding from a Hyaenodon didn't protect you from another threat. While you sat in your safe cave, the world outside could change beyond recognition in a matter of minutes. This is the third rule. Weather is your invisible killer. What if that very shelter that saved you from the Hyaenodon's jaws turns into an icy tomb, or is flooded by a raging torrent an hour later? The next threat has no teeth or claws, but kills just as effectively and inevitably. And there's nowhere to hide from it. Why was a world without winter, a world of eternal summer, a deadly trap? Analysis of fossil pollen paints a picture of a greenhouse planet. Tropical forests grew where Paris stands today. No cold, eternal green. Ideal conditions. But this stability was an illusion. The absence of seasons broke all predictable cycles. There were no regular migrations, no clear periods of fruit ripening. Storing provisions was impossible. The Paleogene climate was like a pot of water kept on the verge of boiling. The slightest change, and the system exploded. One moment there could be suffocating heat, and the next, an icy downpour, causing hypothermia in an hour. Sometimes it rained for weeks without stopping, changing the very geography of the world around you. What if the rain could fall non-stop for a week, and its volume was equal to a mighty river? High CO2 created a stably warm and very humid atmosphere. This steam bath accumulated a colossal amount of moisture, which was released in the form of atmospheric rivers. This isn't just heavy rain, it's a controlled flood. In 3 days, more than 1,000 millimeters of precipitation could fall, an annual norm for many modern cities. As a result, the landscape changed in hours. Rivers overflowed, flooding entire valleys. Your safe shelter in a cave on a hillside suddenly found itself at the bottom of a raging lake. But the water carried more than just this threat. Salvation and doom could be found in the same stream. You are exhausted by the heat and dehydration. Before you is a stream with crystal clear water. Is it salvation or your last mistake? You drink, replenish your strength. You decide to set up camp nearby because a water source is the foundation of survival. You feel that you are again in control of the situation. But you don't see the dark clouds gathering behind the mountains. An hour later, that very downpour begins. The small, harmless stream turns into a roaring torrent of mud and rocks, 30 feet wide, in 15 minutes. It sweeps away everything in its path, including your camp. In this world, water is both life and death. The climate does not forgive even the slightest relaxation. But suppose you survive the storm. What's the first thing you'll do, hungry and soaked? You're alive. Around you, lush vegetation, many small creatures. It seems the problem of hunger is solvable. But this is the most dangerous illusion of all. Instinct pushes you to search for food. Bright fruits resembling familiar ones are all around. Your brain, based on millions of years of evolution, says, "Here's food, go take it." But your brain lies. It's calibrated for the modern world. You cannot distinguish an edible fruit from its toxic double. You don't know that that cute little animal might be poisonous. Every attempt to eat is a game of Russian roulette. This is the fourth rule. Do not trust your foraging instincts. Until now, danger was external. Now it's internal. The next threat will enter your body with the very first bite. The forest is drowning in green. Bright, juicy fruits hang from branches, promising calories and vitamins. How can you starve to death in the midst of this smorgasbord? Your foraging instinct, honed over millions of years, screams, "There it is, food." But it's a chemical trap. Paleogene plants waged war with herbivores, producing complex alkaloids. Your universal test, rub and lick, is useless. It won't detect a neurotoxin that will shut down your liver in 12 hours. Every unfamiliar berry can cause kidney failure, every mushroom, paralysis. This is not a Garden of Eden. It's a green hell where salvation looks like food, but is poison. Okay, plants are dangerous. But what about hunting? You spot a small, rodent-like animal. Finally, a source of protein. Using all your cunning, you catch it. You build a fire. This is your first real success, the first feeling that you've cracked the code of this world. You eat hot meat. But 3 hours later, instead of a surge of energy, a strange metallic taste comes to your mouth, and a coldness that spreads from within. You didn't know that this little creature fed on poisonous leaves, accumulating toxins in its tissues. It was immune to them. You are not. You ate not dinner, but a concentrated dose of poison. Here is the cruel dichotomy of this world. Everything smaller than you is likely poisonous. Everything larger considers you food. The food chain is closed, and you are not in it. The true reason for this incompatibility lies in one word: coevolution. How did a local lemur analog know what to eat? This isn't innate knowledge that you've lost. It's the result of millions of years of an arms race. While a plant produced a toxin, the herbivore simultaneously created enzymes to neutralize it. This is an endless game of biological locks and keys. You, however, are an alien in this system. Your body has keys for approximately 0.01% of the local locks. You cannot learn to survive here by trial and error, because the very first mistake will be your last. You cannot trust your experience, your instincts, and, as will now become clear, even your own senses. You are hungry, exhausted, but alive. What can you rely on when reason and instincts have failed you? Your eyes, ears, nose. This is a fundamental survival kit. But in a world where the ground constantly trembles from the steps of 20-ton giants, where the air is filled with roars and unfamiliar smells, your senses are overloaded. Instead of useful information, you receive constant white noise that drives you mad. You cannot distinguish a real threat from background noise. And the most terrifying thing, your own smells and sounds in this world are a deafening siren that instantly gives away your location to all predators. This is the fifth rule: your senses will kill you. Welcome to sensory hell. The first night breaks you not physically, but psychologically. Darkness, which in your world offers concealment, here turns into a torture chamber. At first, everything seems familiar: the chirping of insects, the rustling of leaves. Your brain begins to classify sounds, creating an illusion of control. But then comes something for which you have no analogs. A low-frequency hum that you feel not with your ears but with your chest, making your heart skip a beat. This is infrasound from a herd of giants causing unreasoning panic. Then a sharp crack, not a branch, but the trunk of a huge tree, broken by an Indricotherium. And finally, a piercing, unlike anything else scream. Your brain cannot determine either the source or the distance. The constant release of adrenaline without the possibility to run or fight burns your resources faster than hunger. You are slowly going mad. And while hearing was torture, smell was preparing the next trap. In a world oversaturated with the smells of decaying vegetation and giant animals, your faint human scent should have dissolved. That's logical. But the Hyaenodon's brain works differently. It's tuned not to the strength of a smell, but to its anomaly. It's like a water purity detector. It doesn't care about the volume of the river. It instantly reacts to a single drop of ink that disrupts the usual composition. Your smell of sweat, campfire smoke, metabolic products, that is precisely that drop. In an ecosystem where all smells are familiar, any foreign signal is a mark. You cannot help but smell, which means you cannot become invisible. But even if you were a silent, odorless ghost, one wrong step would turn you into a walking beacon for all predators in the vicinity. How could the sound of a simple step become a death sentence? It's all about the lack of bioacoustic camouflage. Animals instinctively mask their sounds. Deer step in time with gusts of wind. Predators hunt under the noise of rain. You might try to be quiet, but the problem isn't the loudness, it's your unique acoustic signature. The sound of a human step creates a rhythmic pattern in the 1.52 Hz range. To the ear of a predator, accustomed to the arrhythmic movement of quadrupeds, this sounds as unnatural as a metronome ticking in the forest. Even the sound of a broken branch under your boot differs from the sound of the same branch under a hoof due to a different weight distribution. You are a walking acoustic anomaly. To survive, you would need to make no sound at all, which is impossible. So, you've learned to avoid predators, recognize poisons, and move almost silently. You've adapted. You feel you've cracked the code of this world. Now you're safe, right? But here's what makes this world truly merciless. During a trip for water, you get a trivial scratch from a branch, only 3 centimeters long on your forearm. You treat it as you were taught. But this minor injury is a more terrible death sentence than encountering a Hyaenodon. You can hide from everything outside, but you cannot hide from what gets inside. The greatest killer of this world has already begun its work. This brings us to the last, 6th rule. The real war, impossible to win, is microbiological. How could a simple scratch from a branch be deadlier than bone-crushing jaws? The answer seems obvious. Without antibiotics, any wound is a risk of sepsis. Your brain agrees. It knows this threat. But reality hits hard, shattering this illusion. It's not about the lack of medicine. It's about your immune system, formed over the last few thousand years, being absolutely blind to these ancient pathogens. It's like the most modern cybersecurity system encountering a virus of alien architecture. It simply doesn't see it. These microbes evolved for millions of years to pierce the armor of dinosaur immunity. To them, your white blood cells are not a barrier. They are a nutrient medium. Your immune system isn't just weak, it's playing for the enemy. It all begins with familiar inflammation. You follow protocol, clean the wound, look for plants that might help. For several hours, you believe your strong body will cope. But then the agony begins. A fever, but not like the flu. Convulsions, but not like tetanus. 12 hours later, the skin around the scratch turns purple, and beneath it, you feel not heat, but an unnatural, icy cold. The limb is dying from within. And at this moment, the realization comes. Something utterly alien is killing you. All your intellect is useless. This isn't a fight. It's a one-sided erasure. But could it have been avoided by being extremely cautious? Theoretically, yes. Avoid scratches, bites, contact with carrion. Maintain sterility, like in a laboratory. But the facts shatter this last hope to pieces. Microbes were everywhere. In every sip of water from the stream, in the soil you step on, in the pollen of plants you inhale. The concentration of unknown bacterial spores in Paleogene soil was 10,000 times higher than in the wildest environment today. It's like breathing the air of a hospital room that has never been disinfected. Contact with hostile microflora was not a question of if, but when. So we have gone through 6 stages of the annihilation system. Giants, hyperpredators, a killer climate, poisonous flora, sensory hell, and total microbiological warfare. Survival was impossible. But how did tiny, defenseless primates who had nothing survive in this hell, where even a knowledgeable, armed human is doomed? The answer is paradoxical and refutes everything you know about survival. Strength, size, and even intellect were a death sentence here. The key to the riddle lay not in strength, but in weakness. Not in prominence, but in complete insignificance. In 30 seconds, we will reveal the paradox of our ancestors, and it will change your view on evolution. You think of Paleogene threats as separate problems. This is a mistake. It wasn't a hostile environment. It was a perfect annihilation system. It worked like a sieve with 6 layers, where each layer caught what slipped through the previous one. You try to find safe food, avoiding the poisons of the 4th rule, but this leads you into open terrain, right into the jaws of the Hyaenodon from the 2nd rule. You hide from a predator in shelter, but become a hostage to the unpredictable climate from the 3rd rule. You try to move, but every step and smell is a beacon for all predators, as the 5th rule states, and any mistake, any scratch obtained while trying to avoid any of these threats, inevitably activated the last, 6th, microbiological warfare. It was an airtight trap with no weak points. So how did those who were weaker survive in this system designed to destroy the intelligent and the noticeable? They survived because they were insignificant. Their weakness was their main armor. This paradox is the key to everything. Your size made you a noticeable target. A primate ancestor could hide in a burrow where a giant couldn't fit. You need 2,000 calories a day, which forced you to take risks. It needed 300, a handful of insects and 1 fruit. For a hyaenodon, chasing it was as unprofitable as you running a mile for a single grape. And most importantly, its immunity was not stronger than yours. It was older. It co-evolved with local pathogens for millions of years. It had an immunological memory of enemies that you lack. It wasn't invulnerable, but it had a chance. Have you ever felt that your inconspicuousness saved you from big problems? This leads to the main conclusion. Your dominance on the planet is not a given. It is the result of evolution in uniquely favorable conditions that came later. We dominate today because the world changed and became safer for us. We are descendants not of the kings of nature, but of those who were small and insignificant enough to survive true hell. Our entire civilization, all our achievements, are built on the foundation of their fear and their extreme caution. This is a story of outsider survival, not a triumphant march of conquerors. Your intellect made you the master of this planet, but it would also make you the first victim in a world of true titans. We consider ourselves the pinnacle of evolution, but the reality is that we are descendants of those who were smart enough to hide. We have shown you a world where all human knowledge proved useless, and we have shown how those who relied on primal instincts survived. Now it's your choice. What would have been more important for survival in that world, modern human intellect or the ancient animal instincts of our ancestor? Write one word in the comments, intellect or instincts. Let's see which one prevails.